everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have Nick from DeBoer Home Inspections, and he is going to take us through the whole home inspection process, why it's so important, how to read a report, buyers getting inspections, maybe you have a new home that you need inspected, or you're a seller who's selling, and why it's so important to read the report thoroughly. So I'm going to pass it over to Nick, and he's going to lead this show. But if anyone has any questions throughout, raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we'll kind of go from there.
Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Nick. Thanks for taking the time to be here today. I know you're all busy, so I'll try to keep this quick and valuable. So today we're going to talk about home inspections. What is a home inspection? What is covered by the home inspection? What's not covered? Whether you're buying, selling, or just maintaining your home, my goal is to keep the inspection process smooth, simple, and informative. So, okay, a little look at today's agenda. So we'll start with about me and my inspection services, my service area. What is a home inspection? What do inspectors look for? What is and isn't covered or inspected? The inspection process, so from first contact to the inspection itself, inspection report delivery, and then beyond. Common issues found at a home inspection. We'll go over a sample report and how to read and navigate that. And then finally, how to book your inspection. So who is Nick? Anyways, who is this guy? So Nick is a certified home inspector, local to Dufferin County. Carson Dunlop School of Home Inspection graduate. That's one of the top programs in the industry. And then from there went on to join the Association of InterNACHI and earned his CPI designation here. And then to retain that, I have to do at least 24 hours of continuing education every calendar year. So that's just part of keeping that designation. And then beyond that, I am infrared certified and a certified drone pilot. Both of those services are included in every home inspection. And then I also have my well certification for your rural properties and recently added the wet technical training for wet inspections. So beyond the certifications, I am a husband, and proud father of 3 boys. That keeps me busy. I get to coach my kids' hockey teams. I enjoy playing some sports myself. I'm also a homeowner, guys. So over the years, I've owned several different homes. I've experienced the surprises, the unexpected repairs, learning curves, all that stuff firsthand. I've also built 3 homes over the years with a few friends, so a lot of experience gained there. So these experiences are what led me into home inspections. First, I know what it feels like to invest in a home and then wonder what you're really getting. And then second, I saw the value of having that knowledge ahead of time, before making the purchase. So next.
Even before you go on, could you highlight the importance of choosing a good home inspector? There's so many to choose from. So how does someone tell if they're a good home inspector or actually qualified for the job, like yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. So here in Ontario, there's actually no licensing for home inspectors. So anybody with a flashlight can come inspect your home for you. So it is important to make sure you find somebody who's educated, certified, knowledgeable, and knows. So and that's it's pretty easy to do with a quick Google search. You can usually find someone local to your area. Another good a good way to choose your inspector is to check out their website, check out their certifications, kind of vet them a little bit. And then Google reviews is also a big selling feature for home inspectors. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll move on to my inspection services. So this is you've got your pre-purchase or your buyer's inspection. So that's for anybody who's looking to buy a home. It's a good idea to, after you put your offer in, schedule your home inspection. get the home looked at so you know what you're getting yourself into. Pre-listing or seller's inspection. This is a great selling feature for somebody who's looking to sell their home, kind of sets your listing apart. Um, it's a good way to have a look at your home before it hits the market, and then if there's any issues that need to be dealt with, you have a chance to remediate or fix things before your home hits the market. Tarion warranty inspection. So that's for new home buyers. There's three levels of Tarion. You've got 30-day, 1 year, and 2 year levels. So there's Tarion's kind of broken up. There's certain things that are covered by each level, but it's a good idea to schedule Tarion inspection. I always recommend it within either the first 30 days or before the 1 year, because if there's any issues, you have a good opportunity to go back to the builder and get them to make some repairs and so on. Condo inspections, yeah, just because it's a condo doesn't mean it doesn't need to be inspected. If you're buying a condo, there's still lots of things to look at. Mostly interior, obviously the common areas aren't included, but get a good look at the interior of your condo. Century home inspections, so that's the older homes. There's older homes, they used different building methods back then, so it's a good idea to get into your century home and have a look at how things are holding up. An outbuilding, so that's your detached garage or shop. Sometimes detached buildings will have a dwelling over top of a garage, say, so you can get that inspected as well. Well inspections. This is an important one for rural properties to get the equipment looked at, pressure tank and switches, electrical, and then the flow rate, which is a big one. So the water is run for 2 hours, and we measure the total gallons pumped and then the gallons per minute to make sure it's adequate for your family, adequate supply. And then the wet inspection. So I am wet certified. The service is coming very soon. Excited about that one. That's also mostly rural. There are some residential properties with wood burning appliances. So any wood burning appliance, your insurance company is probably going to want a level 1 wet inspection done on it. So next. Okay, so this is my service area. It's getting bigger and bigger. I proudly serve a wide area of central Ontario here. So it's anything from Owen Sound to Midland, Aurelia, down into east of the Newmarket area, across. I try to stay north of the 401 if I can, over to the Kitchener area, Listowel, and anything in between. I am from Dufferin County, so that's my kind of main service area, but I will service anywhere in this outline here, no questions asked. If you're located outside of this area, though, doesn't mean I won't come help you out. It's just I prefer to take a phone call so we can discuss how I can help you outside of my normal service area. So what is a home inspection? Home inspection is a non-invasive visual assessment of the home's major systems and components, designed to give you a clear picture of the home's condition at the time of the inspection so you can make informed decisions, whether you're buying, selling, or just maintaining your property. So why would somebody need a home inspection? So for buyers, right, this is one of the biggest financial decisions most people will make, purchasing a home. So professional home inspection helps you understand what you're getting into, what's working well, what needs attention, and what could become a problem down the road. So for sellers, as I mentioned before, same thing. It's a good idea to identify any issues before listing. That way too, if you accept an offer and the buyers get a home inspection, there's no surprises. You should already know what's going on. And for current homeowners, it's a great way to stay on top of maintenance and avoid any costly surprises or repairs. So whether you're buying, maintaining, selling, it's important to know what's going on with your home.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of buyers at this point assume and kind of are more familiar with home inspections, but I think oftentimes like sellers don't realize how beneficial it can be for them. Like you said, there's issues that might be happening in your attic that you have no idea about because no one really goes in their attic. And the worst time to find out about it is when you have an accepted offer on your property and then you're renegotiating, or you're like, oh my God, I didn't know we had mold in the house, for instance. And then
Yep.
you're no longer in a position of leverage. And who wants to accept an offer and then have to renegotiate or redo things? And not mold was just kind of like an example there, but it could be various little things like the GFI, that sort of stuff, to kind of get ahead of that. And then you're going to end up getting more money from for your house because there's going to be less of those apparent issues.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, how often do you stick your head up in the attic, right? And most homeowners don't go in their attic at all, if right. So, yeah, great point. Great point. So, what do home inspectors look at? So, the the standard home inspection covers the home's major systems and components. So that includes roof, gutters, and downspout, the exterior, foundation and structure, attic, insulation, ventilation, plumbing and electrical systems, heating and cooling systems, windows, doors, and your interior finishes rather. Um, a home inspection is visual and non-invasive. So stuff that's not covered, obviously I won't be cutting into walls or ceilings, floors, taking things apart really beyond what I can do by hand or with some small hand tools. Um, I also, a lot of people don't realize I can't move furniture or personal items in the home without the homeowner's permission. And the inspection does not include compliance with building codes. I do get asked about that one a lot. Unfortunately, I'm not a code inspector, so I can't cover anything that would be a code violation. Um, Sorry, I just lost myself for a second there. Obviously, I do my best to give my clients, my best opinion and what they're getting themselves into, and I'll always recommend, further evaluation if they have concerns. Um, So the inspection process, it all starts with a phone, text, email, or I do have online booking on my website. Um, so I'll gather some basic info about the property, location, size, the age of the home. I'll need your contact info, obviously name, email, phone number, and then we'll pick a date and a time that works best for the client and homeowner. I'll also go over any pricing and additional add-on services you might need, like the well, the wet inspection, the outbuilding, stuff like that. And then inspection day, that's the fun part. That's when we go and take a look. So to help the inspection go smoothly, I try to ask that things are accessible. So like gates are unlocked and there's access to the attic hatch and the furnace and electrical panel and those things. So I usually I try to arrive a little bit early. I try to get the lay of the land. This will probably be the first time I'm seeing the property. So I like to get a good overview before I start. I try to be as thorough as possible. I go over everything top to bottom, inside and out. I take lots of pictures. I use tools like the drone, moisture meter, thermal camera where needed. And the client, you're welcome to follow me around, shadow me, ask questions. You can go and inside take measurements for your furniture if you're buying the property. It's totally up to you. Then once the inspection is wrapped up, I'll give an on-site summary. So it's just a verbal, quick, everything that I discovered today. And then you'll receive a full digital report same day. I offer same day reporting. So it's usually in the evening, later at night by the time it's finished, but it is same day. And the report will include photos, videos, descriptions, recommendations. It's organized. It's a shareable link you can share with your realtor. You can send it to your contractor, lawyer, whoever you think wants to see it. And then after the inspection, so my job doesn't stop when the report is delivered. If you have questions later, need clarification, you want referrals for trusted contractors, I'm just a call or text away. Um, so I want the clients to feel supported. I also keep photos I take during the inspection. So not just the ones that make it into the report. I usually have hundreds of pictures that I keep on file for future. So for example, I had a client I did an inspection for, they moved into the home. It was just a few short months later that they discovered a roof leak. They were having an issue with their insurance company. The insurance company didn't want to help them. They wanted pictures proving that the roof was in good condition. So I was able to send them some of the pictures I had. They submitted it to their insurance company, and they ended up getting the roof covered. So there's just one example of how I can help the clients out afterwards.
Amazing. And do you like oftentimes just with people's schedules and stuff like that, the buyers might not be able to be present during the actual home inspection. I know sometimes reading the report can be really overwhelming for people. So how much would you recommend for someone or maybe their parent or something like that to be there during the actual inspection?
I always encourage my clients to be there, to be there for the whole inspection. That way they can see the findings firsthand. They can ask questions and get like real time answers. I always find that best. And I find too, if I've had it before where the client is not able to make it to the inspection for whatever reason, and that's fine. But I do find that they're always the ones that they feel more overwhelmed when they see the report because I didn't have an opportunity to put things into perspective for them on site. So you're always encouraged to join. Yeah.
For sure. No, I totally agree with that. When people don't come, it can definitely seem a lot more overwhelming when you get like 60 pages of issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so before we get into common issues, I just want to take a second here. This is just a screenshot from my sample report that we'll take a look at later. But so this is kind of what the homepage looks like. You'll have a picture of the property, the address, pictures of the team here, and then um, the report's broken up into kind of three categories here. So you've got maintenance items, items to be monitored, recommended upgrades, and then recommendations are usually things that if you leave them or they're neglected for too long, they can become something bigger. And then you've got your safety hazards or material defects, they call it. So first one here, this is quite common actually, and this is definitely a safety hazard. Can actually be a fire hazard. It's called overfusing. So this is a look at electrical panel here, and this is a 50 amp breaker that's on a wire that's not rated for 50 amps. This wire is too small for this breaker, or this breaker is too big for this wire, depending which way you look at it. So this is called overfusing. This one is definitely something you're going to want to get fixed as soon as possible, but it's also not a big repair. Any electrician should be able to pop a new breaker in here for you relatively inexpensively. Always obviously reach out for a quote, but in my experience, this is not an expensive repair. It's a very common one though. Another common one I see is a downspout. This is a downspout. So this handles all the water runoff from the roof. And this one here is discharging. You can see right beside the home's foundation. It's hard to see in this picture, but the ground was actually eroded quite a bit in this area from all the concentrated water. So this is something that I would recommend you extend the downspout to discharge about 6 feet or so or more away from the home's foundation. And if you leave it for too long, you can end up with water issues in your basement or crawl space. And then this is one that would be considered a maintenance item. You can see here the caulking around this window is really starting to age. It's dried out and cracked. So that can lead to moisture issues or energy efficiency issues over time. So I'll always recommend as a maintenance item for homeowners to get the caulking replaced. Sure. And then, so now we're going to get into a few issues that are a little bit more concerning, which this would be considered like a material defect. So they say that has an adverse impact on the value of the property, meaning it could costs a lot of money to repair, or it has an unreasonable risk to people. So a health hazard like mold or something like that. So here you can see this is two pictures from actually the same house. The foundation was leaking in two spots. This was actively leaking at the time. So this could be quite a large undertaking depending on what's needed. You can see here in this picture there were already some repairs made to this foundation, but it was still leaking the day I was there. Another issue is, and this one is fairly common as well. This is a look in an attic, and this, so you got your insulation here. This is all your roof truss members, and this is the attic sheathing. So the discoloration here is generally a sign of too much moisture in the attic. So it's either inadequate insulation or inadequate ventilation, or a combination of the two. Warm, moist air escapes from the home through the attic access door or gaps in the ceiling somewhere, and then it releases this moisture onto the sheathing, and then it starts to turn black like this. The recommendation from me would be to get this tested for mold. I don't do the mold testing, but based on what I am seeing here, I would recommend a test. And this can be quite a large undertaking as well to do the repairs. So this would be one that I would recommend the clients to get further evaluated. And then third one here, not as big of a deal, but this was one that I saw not too long ago. This air conditioning unit was dated 1989, so it was well past its life expectancy. Um, not a safety issue, but if your HVAC system is beyond its usable life, they all have life expectancies. So if they're beyond that, it can be expensive to get a new furnace and air conditioning put in. Oh, what? Okay. So now I will just quickly switch screens here, and I will pull up a sample report. We could quickly go over how to navigate the report and what sec to load here. Okay, so this is what you will receive an email from me with a link. The link will take you right to the report here, and then you can scroll around and you can see down here this report has a few things going on. Also on the left here, there's kind of a table of contents, so to speak. So you can quickly jump to any system. If you wanted to quickly jump to the heating, you just click on that, it scrolls you down. So you got all your information about your heating system here, the type of equipment, a few recommendations. You can see this furnace here needed a service. It was a little bit rusty inside, and then they needed a new filter, wrong size filter. So this is a pretty typical, recommendation you'll see in one of our reports, that the furnace needs a service. I usually recommend that to everybody. If you're buying a new home, get the HVAC system serviced to make sure it's in proper working order. So yeah, and then let's say you wanted to go to you want to see what's going on with the electrical, you can just quickly jump there. If there's any limitations, I'll usually note those in the report. If I was unable to, okay, so I was unable to remove the cover off the sub panel, so I'll always put that note in for the client so they know. So yeah, it'll give you the meter location, the panel location, the panel amperage rating, type of wiring observed. A lot of insurance companies want to know that, so I always note that in the report for clients. Note about the smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, and then any issues that are found will be in here. Some improper connections, yeah, some missing cover plates. So all the recommendations will have either pictures or video. Sometimes a picture's not good enough, so I'll take a little video showing what's going on. It'll be in the report as well. And then if you go back, so it gives you, there's a quick video here of one of the founders of Spectora basically giving the same thing I'm doing, just a quick how to read your report for people when they get in. Some general information here at the top. And yeah, that's that's about it.
Amazing, amazing. So I think it's like no house is perfect, obviously. Even a brand new house, like you said, having an inspector even coming through that is super important. So I feel like a lot of buyers, specifically first-time home buyers, can get really overwhelmed because, say, if they're buying a house that's 5 years old, they're expecting to be like little to no issues, but that is rarely the case that you ever go into houses like there's no problems here, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It doesn't every house has its issues, new or old, it doesn't seem to matter. There's always something, there's always something to find. There's always something fun to look at. So yeah, new or old, it's important. Especially, I find especially for new homeowners, if you're buying a brand new build, some of the things I found have saved the clients from having to do it themselves, windows that are brand new, but they've already lost their seal. So, they put a claim in with the builder, they can get their window replaced. That can be a significant expense for somebody, right? For a new window. So, yeah,
For
it's always a good idea.
For sure. And I think even when we're showing buyers, we try to be as thorough as possible and keep our eye out for maybe like water stains or look on the years of windows to see. But there's only so much that we can see. And it's good to have someone else come in who's actually an expert who can highlight all those things or get into the attic where we're not able to or get on the roof and those sorts of things.
Hmm.
In terms of oh, I lost my train of thought as well, to be honest. um, so we were just talking about um, issues. Oh, I'm sure it'll come back to me. But let me look at my notes and see, because I had some other things while you were talking
For
uh,
sure.
about kind of concerns coming up.
Mhm.
Um, so some things like a crack or mold. I feel like those two things specifically can really scare buyers. And they might not always, like, of course, you don't want those things in your house, but sometimes they might not be as expensive or as hard of a fix as people initially thought. Do you find that's the case with certain problems in homes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, the foundation cracks, yeah, usually people get pretty worked up about them. It depends too. There's different types of cracking that you can see in a foundation. Depends on the foundation type. And then from there you have to see, well, what's the crack look like? Is it just a hairline, or is it a horizontal crack? Those are two very different cracks. And the hairline crack is just normal, concrete settlement.
Hmm.
There's two types of concrete cracks, really. The one that's there and the one that will be there because they all crack.
Right, right.
Um, but yeah, the horizontal crack, I should say, is much more concerning. That's more of a structural concern, whereas the hairline crack is just normal settlement and something that you just kind of keep an eye on to make sure it doesn't get any bigger.
Any bigger. Okay, that
Yeah.
definitely makes sense. In terms of your like a condo inspection versus say a detached home inspection versus a rural home inspection, is there different costs associated with each for the home inspection and time? Because typically home inspections are very thorough. You're there for about 3 hours, but does it differ between the types of property?
Yes, for sure. Great question. So the condo inspection is a little bit cheaper. So they start at like 395. And
Hmm.
then that's usually about 2 to 3 hours. It's kind of a little bit shorter because there's a few less things to look at.
Hmm.
Your regular, your detached 3, 4 bedroom under 2,000 square foot with garage. That's 495,
Hmm.
and then that's 3 hours. That's all
Right.
of 3 hours, and
Yeah.
sometimes a little bit longer. And then your rural property, if you wanted to add, let's say you wanted the well inspected, you wanted an outbuilding, that starts to get a little bit more expensive. Now you're closer to maybe $1,000,
Right.
and then you're probably 5 hours on site, and then same day reporting as well.
Okay. But regardless, all are well worth the expense there. And I would say, even from experience in working with you, is even if you go through the home inspection and there's no major red flags or anything like that, that's awesome. But I also think doing the home inspection is a great education, especially if you're a first time home buyer and you've never really had to deal with home ownership things before. Having you there to point out where the water shutoff valve is, or how to clean an HRV, for instance, or what is an
Hmm.
HRV? Like a lot of these terms are not things that many people know. Or we've had sellers before that you'll point out an HRV and you're say you should be cleaning this out every X amount of time, and they're like, well, we've never even done that before. Whereas if you had an inspection before, you kind of have a list of things that you are now aware of in your house. And when insurance asks you those questions before closing, you can either refer back to the report or remember what happened during the inspection or reach out to you to
Hmm.
get that completed, which I think is great. I also find if you're like from a real estate perspective, after the home inspection, we really have kind of three sort of things to do is either one, you're super happy with how it went and you want to firm up on the deal. Number two, issues got brought up that you want fixed. So you can either have the seller fix those for you and provide receipts, or you can get money off the purchase price. Depends on which route you want to go down. Sometimes as my advice, oftentimes is get the money off if you can, because you'll probably fix it better than the sellers will,
Right.
realistically. Any seller and I think anyone would try to go the cheapest route out, especially if you're no longer going to be living in the house.
Yeah.
Um, or the third option is if it goes really, really bad and you just don't want anything else to do with the property and you just completely back out. But either which way you go, you still have that education about this property and any other future ones that you're going to maybe offer on. And it also, I feel like, gives you a to-do list. You might not have the seller fix everything. And I mean, if you go to any seller and say, fix every single issue on these 60 pages, that realistically is never going to happen. I feel like from a buyer's perspective, you want them to fix every sort of thing, but that's not beneficial to you. Even when you're negotiating back and forth, you might want to just pick one major thing for them to fix. So, like a crack or cleaning up the mold, for instance, or repairing a cracked window instead of giving them like 10 little things to do, like switch out a breaker panel, for instance, whereas it's really not
Hmm.
worth, you'd rather ask for one big thing than 10 little things.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think this is a conversation I usually have with clients. They'll start asking me questions like, well, can I get the seller to repair all these things? And my general comment is it's unlikely that
Mhm.
a seller is going to go through and fix every little thing we've discussed today, but usually they can find a happy medium. Like they can
Yeah.
meet somewhere in the middle. The seller will take on a few things, and then the buyer will take on a few things.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's different. Like for a homeowner, if they're doing like a home maintenance inspection, obviously they already own the property. It's all on
Right.
them. But usually, yeah, if it's a real estate transaction, usually people can meet in the middle.
Mhm.
And I always tell my clients too, like it's all what you're comfortable with, right? I've inspected some homes for some people that really didn't have a whole lot going on, but they were pretty freaked out by the report, and I think they ended up walking away. And then on the other end, I had done an inspection for a young couple that um, there was all kinds of things going on, and it didn't seem to bother them. You know,
Yeah.
they really liked the property. They were comfortable with what we saw, and they had no problem, renegotiating and then taking on whatever was left for themselves to do. So it all depends on what the comfort level is.
For sure. And I think it also depends on what they're buying the property for. I mean, you could very well be going into a property knowing it needs a lot of work and that's probably reflective of the price, but maybe that's what kind of property you were looking for is a repair job, right? So I think like
Yeah.
you said, it really depends. And either way, it gives you if you were going in there and you know you were going to do a complete gut job or something like that, at least it gives you like a to-do list now. You can always go back through your report. We've had clients who keep the report and then every year they'll like fix a couple of things that are on that report and kind of chip away at it.
Yeah, I've had clients reach out who I had done an inspection for like maybe a year ago and ask, "Hey, I'm just looking at your report again. We want to do this and this. Like, do you have a recommendation for a contractor to come out?"
Mhm.
So, yeah, the report that you receive from me, the link never expires. It'll always be there for you as long as you own the property. Um, and yeah, it's a good tool. I find that it's an overwhelming amount of value in
Mhm.
a home inspection.
Yeah.
To have somebody with trained eye come through and just eat, like you said, even if there's nothing wrong with the home or no major issues, there's a lot to be learned about the property in a short amount of time.
Mhm. No, 100%. And I think kind of going off of that, I think oftentimes people ask like, well, is this a deal breaker or what would be a deal breaker? And I kind of think like what you said was correct. And I think a deal breaker is different to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it depends on who it is. A deal
Mhm.
breaker for one person won't be a deal breaker for the next. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
totally agree.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions, like kind
Sure.
of rapid fire questions. So, what's the most unusual thing that you found during an inspection?
Unusual, like as a defect or just
I'll leave that up to you. You can
okay.
decide. It could be strange or it
Unusual.
could be a defect.
Well, I have gone into an attic in an older home, and it was quite dark. And before I kind of had my flashlight in the right spot, I saw what turned out to be like an upper half of like a mannequin,
Oh, oh
and
my,
it scared the
oh,
daylights
I
out of me. It
bet.
was so that was a bit unusual.
Yeah, could
That
have
gave
been
me a
the sellers
scare.
playing a prank on you.
Yeah.
So if you could give buyers one inspection tip, what would it be?
Get your inspection.
Yeah, that too.
And yeah, I think the second tip would be if you can, and my schedule is pretty flexible, try to be there. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely be there for the inspection.
And I know we kind of didn't discuss this during your presentation, but the market right now is very different than it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago,
Yeah.
we were seeing a lot of people not do home inspections at all because truthfully, that's what it took to get the house,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So there are a lot of people who have purchased and they're finding out issues with the house later on, which is definitely unfortunate. But if that market does come back, for instance, and people aren't in a position where they can do a home inspection, do you offer things like pre-offer inspections or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, if the market will allow it, definitely.
Mhm.
Um, I think 5 years ago, the market, I don't think there was a market for that 5 years ago. But yes, I would definitely do that. And also, it's a little bit different because you've already bought the property, but you can always get the inspection after you close. And then, there's still a lot of value there. Obviously, you don't have an opportunity to, renegotiate or anything, but you can still get an overview of the property, and now you know if there's any repairs or honey to-do list.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and then obviously there's limitations to what you can do. So a home inspection isn't a guarantee. So what are some things that maybe could be behind walls that you're not able to confirm?
Yeah. So, obviously with some of the tools that I have, it's pretty thorough, like with the thermal camera and moisture meter and things like that. But there still are things that I can't see. Like for example, if you do have a crack in your foundation that's below grade and not visible from the exterior, and your basement is finished, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to see that. It'll be in behind the drywall insulation and so on. And then maybe it's dry and there's no signs of water on the inspection day, and then we get a big rain and it's leaking. So that's an example of something that I don't think any home inspector would be able to see if there's no signs that day.
Right, for sure. And I guess what would be like the best conditions to do a home inspection when it's like pouring rain outside, maybe?
That is a good one. As much
Yeah,
as it sucks for me because I'm
yeah,
outside getting wet, it is a good one because then you really get to see how is the roof handling the water, the rainwater. How are the gutters and downspouts performing? Are the downspouts sending the water well enough away from the foundation? And then once you get into the attic, you can really see if there's any active leaks coming through. Yeah, I would say probably in the rain.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And so this will be my last like rapid fire question. So if a seller, we've kind of talked about the pre-list inspection, so that would give them a list of to-do things. But if they don't do that, what's one thing that you would tell sellers to look at and or fix before they get a home inspection?
Um, I would say, that's a good one. It kind of depends. Like if it's an older home and the furnace and air conditioning are maybe original and they're getting towards like the end of their life, I would probably recommend to get them serviced and make sure they're in good working order. Um, Maybe check your downspouts and make sure you got extensions on them, that type of thing.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, there's kind of hard to say,
Yeah.
really.
I know I would say from like doing a home inspections or like watching you do them, the downspouts I feel like comes up 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
with GFI around like bathrooms and kitchens. I feel like
Yeah.
that always comes up. Um, and what would other like the most common or what would you say like 99% of the time is like in every single report?
Oh yeah, okay. So definitely the downspouts, ground fault protection, the GFCIs make sure it's in all the wet areas. And then another one that comes up a lot on older stuff is the caulking around door windows and doors. You could always get that redone before the inspection. Um, what else? I'd have to look at some other notes, but
That's okay. That's okay. I think that was really good. One question I know that the home inspection has like come a long way. There used to not be like this thermal imaging and drones and that sort of stuff. So how do you use technology now that maybe wasn't available, and how much more helpful and in depth does that make your report?
yeah, okay. So for the drone, I mean, obviously it's the safest place to inspect a roof is from the ground, but obviously if the roof is metal, if you've got a metal roof, I you know the risk of damaging or denting it is quite high. So I would prefer to inspect it from the ground, but there's only so much you can see from the ground. So the drone gives me a kind of an aerial look, and my drone's got a 4K camera on it with like 10 times zoom. It takes very nice pictures. I can see just as much with the drone as if I were to walk the roof.
Hmm.
And for the thermal, there are things that the thermal camera can see that the naked eye can't. So, for example, missing insulation in a wall, you'd never see that with the naked eye, but the thermal camera usually picks it up straight away.
Okay.
Um, and then also with thermal, it can check for water. Well, the thermal does just a difference between hot and cold. It's just a temperature thing.
Mm,
But if I see maybe a big round spot on a ceiling underneath the bathroom, then I can say, oh, okay, then I'll pull the moisture meter out and I can confirm, yes, that is in fact wet. And you might
right.
not be able to see that with the naked eye.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Perfect. Well, I think that covered everything. I think, like I said before, I think home inspections, even however many I've tagged along to, I learned something new, honestly, every single time. So I think, like you said, it is a huge education pillar. Highly recommend everyone who's buying and selling, and especially with a new build, to get them done. I think a lot of people oversee the whole new build thing because they just feel like the builder's going to do a great job, but that is not all the case.
Mm.
Myself, we've bought new build a few times, and there sometimes are bigger issues there than you would expect with an older home.
Hmm.
So I don't think you can ever be too careful, but thank you so much for coming on. If people need to contact you, I know you have it up there, but if you want to let people know how to reach out to you and ask any other questions that they might have.
Yeah, sure. So my number is listed here. You can call, text, WhatsApp, anything works. You can also email me, Nick at DeBoerHomeInspection.com, or you can hit me up on socials. I do a lot of a lot of DMing on Instagram and Facebook, or you can send me a message through my website. So there's several ways to get a hold of me. I can't hide from anybody. And I also have a QR code here you can scan, and it gives you all my contact information too.
Amazing, amazing. And we recorded this, so we'll put it up on YouTube for people to rewatch, and we'll send it out to people who are going to do future home inspections. And yeah, if you're buying a home and you need a home inspection, definitely reach out to Nick. We highly recommend. And thank you
Thank you.
so much for joining.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. See ya.
All right. Bye bye.